Welcome everyone to the IIHS University webinar series. I'm Sube Babarwal from the Academic Outreach team. Here I am joined by my colleagues Sudeshna Mitra, Associate Dean, IIHS School of Environment and Economic Development, and Kavita Wankhade, Associate Dean, IIHS School of Systems and Infrastructure. I hand over the space to you to take over and deep dive into the work that you do in the thematics that you've been working on for decades, and to talk about a new program, Masters of Science in Urban Economic and Infrastructure Development.
Thank you so much, Subhay, and a very, very good evening to all of you. It is really nice to see so many of you have joined us on a Friday evening. So very firstly, right off the block, kudos for that. I hope that we can answer all your questions today. Subha has already given us a quick introduction, but I will just do a little bit more on that. So my name is Sudeshna Mitra. I am Associate Dean of the School of Economic Development, joined by Kavita, and I'll hand it over to her in just a bit to introduce. My work is looking at basically an entry point of land and real estate to look at how settlements of different sizes from metropolitan centers at one end to the regional kind of developments, villages, smaller towns, etc., are going through economic transitions, especially in terms of how the economic relationships to land are changing in this process. A lot of my work is at the intersection of the politics around land, of where public and private interests meet, and the various kinds of institutions and the various kinds of practices that emerge around that. I, of course, work on research and teaching, which is informed by this, but a lot of my teaching also comes from the work that I do directly with the different kinds of government agencies and different kinds of development projects where these kinds of land politics, these kinds of real estate projects, etc., are going on, infrastructure projects are going on. These are master plans, transit-oriented developments, etc. So these are the kinds of things that are, they will sit across different disciplines. And these are the kind of things that will come into the class as we talk a little bit more about this Master of Science program. Kavita, over to you for your work. And
yeah. Hi, good evening to all of you. And again, like Sudeshna, I would like to echo thanks for being here on a Friday evening. It's not the easiest time to attend a webinar. So very happy to see you here. I'm Kavita. I've been with IIHS for a long time and kind of grown with the organization. And like many people in IIHS, I've rotated through working on practice-based stuff to teaching to research, and it's been a journey, and I'll tell a little bit about that. So I trained as an architect, and then very quickly realized that I did not want to just end up doing building design, and I wanted to do something with a larger canvas, which was the urban. So I got an interdisciplinary degree in from LSE London School of Economics in City Design and Social Science. Came back, found this is 20 years back, so the only urban jobs I could find was designing malls, which I definitely didn't want to do. So kind of made my way through, and GNNURM and the urban, as we know, it was just exploding on the scene. So found my way through and did a bunch of mix of consulting and research projects around diverse areas of work, water and sanitation, other infrastructure systems, urban governance, and build a portfolio of work around it. For the last 10 years, but almost 10 years, I have been working on this massive program called Urban Sanitation Support Program, Tamil Nadu Urban Sanitation Support Program, in which I and a team of over 20 colleagues have been working very closely with the government of Tamil Nadu to actually shift the sanitation systems from a centralized mode to a mix of decentralized and centralized. And while this is a sanitation program, it has really involved what a truly interdisciplinary program should look like. It's involved everything from engineering to behavior change communication to capacity building to working on institutional strengthening. And that's the kind of experience I get into the classroom. I've always enjoyed teaching and teaching out of practice work. we are now at a place where the program is wrapping up, and so we are actually in a process of converting all this rich learning on implementation of working not just with the government but private sector, informal workers, communities into teaching learning materials and writing. That's where we are, and you will hear more about some of the themes that I work on as we present the program. So yeah, happy to be here with all of you.
I'm on mute. I will also share some slides. We'll take you through some of the details about the program. But also, as Kavita was speaking, I realized that I didn't tell you a little bit about the my degree side of things. So yes, I am trained as a planner, many degrees, masters, PhD, etc., but with specializations in economic geography and development sociology. And so, as you can tell from Kavita's story, as well as, a little bit from this, is that all of us in some ways have this in our training as well. There are multiple disciplines in the way that we trained, and the way that we work as well are places where multiple kinds of, like, the sociological problems, there are engineering problems, there are law problems, there are all of it coming together, because in real life problems don't come in disciplinary silos. And so our attempt in terms of the master's program as well is to replicate the way problems arise in the world and the way that we have to work through solutions, by making this as sort of this interdisciplinary kind of a approach towards it. So with that said, let me quickly sort of take you through some of these things that we have, and we'll go back and forth, Kavita and I. As you know, IIHS has been around for a while. We do lots of different things. We do research, we do practice. We have been teaching for the last 10 years. There have been different forms of this one-year program that we have been running. But now, this year, we are moving into the university format, 4 master's program, 1 PhD program, and we will deep dive into the Master of Science in Urban, Economic, and Infrastructure Development today, right? So that's what this program is, brings together 2 schools, of course, across all schools, but the Systems and Infrastructure School and the School of Economic Development are primary in the delivery of this program. It will, as you can tell from our introduction as well, take a very heterodox sort of an approach, right? This is not some, pure disciplinary economics or infrastructure studies kind of a program. It is like how our cities and settlements are transitioning, and the different approaches that you will need to kind of enter that. So the heterodox approach towards understanding this massive transition that India is going through right now, which is, we have a demographic dividend. We're seeing massive amount of urbanization. There are lots of economic transitions, lots of infrastructure development that this change will have to incorporate. It comes with deeply wicked problems that have many different kind of disciplinary silos that you have to address it through. So this economic and infrastructure transition is the focus of this particular master's that we will teach. But what especially sets us apart is that there is going to be a strong focus on sustainability and equity in the world that we live in right now, in the moment that we live in right now. We cannot talk about economics, we cannot talk about economic development, we cannot talk about infrastructure development without sustainability and equity being written deep into the DNA of this kind of a program. So those are very critical focus, and across different kinds of settlement sizes. So metros, tier 1, tier 2, smaller settlements across the rural-urban continuum. These are some of the themes that we will go into as a part of this master's program. Economic and infrastructure development, I've talked about that a little bit. One of our primary focus in entering this is not just to talk about, say, for example, GDP and output, but making it people-centric. So employment, decent work, social protection, how are people featuring in this economic transition is a very critical entry point for us. Similarly, land-based economies. A lot of the work that I do, for instance, is this politics between public and private around land and the economic and social relationships with land. and how they transition. We're talking about urbanization, we're talking about different scales of human settlements. Another important point is economic enterprises and entrepreneurship. MSMEs, the really small, tiny industries, as well as large industries. Basically, the kinds of places where the firms where these economic decisions are being made, those economic actors that is making the economic changes happen. We also have a lot of work on how our economy is transforming, especially in moving towards digitization, the gig economy, the platform economy, the government. A lot of the work is coming across in digital platforms right now. That's a very, very important kind of a transformation in the way that we understand work, but also in terms of what we understand as work and employment relationships, right? So there, Kavita, over to you.
Sorry, I wasn't. Yeah. Thanks, Sudeshna. So what are the other themes we'll be covering? So I want to unpack infrastructure, systems, and services by talking about each of the three words. So if you look at infrastructure, I think there are many places which talk about individual infrastructure, be it transport or environmental services or waste. What we try to do in this program is to actually take a cross-cutting view and look at what are some of the cross-cutting concerns. And we are looking at it from two angles, at least. One is from the practice-based perspective. As you know, urban infrastructure or urban has seen a lot of infrastructure investments in the last 15 decades, be it the government missions, be it the state programs, or the private sector investment that's gone. So to study from that, what has been happening on the ground, what are some of the lessons, what is the trajectory forward. But we then also ground it in a set of theoretical concepts about understanding this infrastructure system as in relation to economic development, but also to the themes of equity and sustainability that Sudeshna mentioned. Then systems. I think it's very important, and IIHS a lot of our work, not only in infrastructure but other places, is grounded in systems thinking and being systemic about it, which talks to also what we've been talking about, multiple perspective, that you are not just looking at, say, the land problem or just the technology problem or just the equity problem. The whole point is that these perspectives have to come together because the whole thing functions as a system, which is not just an infrastructure system or a physical system, but also of services and people around it, right? And that brings me to services. I think infrastructure is talked about a lot, and absolutely it's important. But I think we realize at IIHS that what is more critical and more important is what does that infrastructure system do, and which is to provide services, both in terms of to households and citizens. But since this is a course in economic development, how does infrastructure also help in livelihoods, and how does it tie to various other things that Sudeshna talked about? So that's kind of one thematic. The other is governance and finance. Again, very key. This one is obvious. The only thing I will say here is that it becomes particularly important for infrastructure systems because it really, if you're looking at it, it's not just about the government or various levels of government, but a whole set of stakeholders, big private firms, but also informal enterprises, workers, community groups. It's very complex set of people who are responsible for this. And so how does the governance work for them? How does the legal framework work? What are the kind of regulation you need? These are very complex questions. And like Sudeshna mentioned, the world is changing rapidly. How do you deal with them? And finance, of course, is, we know, key. The only thing I'll say here is that our focus has always been to look at the life cycle and not just look at capex or capital investments, which many programs talk about. But how do you make these systems sustain and not roll back and go back to where we were 20 years back or 50 years back? Equity, inclusion, and informality. This is something I would have liked to say is important, particularly for the global south. But I think if you have been following what's happening with in UK with the rivers, and in New York with its metro system, you'll realize the principles of equity and inclusion are far from a problem for us. It's a global way of how we look at infrastructure and systems, and how absolutely equity has to be center of whatever solutions we are coming up with. And the last theme is about sustainability principle of urban transition. It can mean many things, but what we mean here is that urban is not a static state. It is a very dynamic affair, and you have rural to urban transition, big city, small city to big cities, etc. And cities themselves are transitioning. So how do you ensure that these transitions are happening in a sustainable manner? So these are some of the themes that the course will be covering, and I guess we can move on to other things now. Okay, the eligibility criteria, this is there in the prospectus, but just wanted to go over it. The first unique thing is that we will accept any bachelor's degree in any discipline. It is an interdisciplinary program. The age should not be more than 35 years, and you should have basic proficiency in reading. We do provide support for people who have limited English speaking skills, but a basic proficiency is required. The selection is merit based. There's a detail of what so there's an entrance exam, there are written essays and an interview, but for more details are there in the prospectus, and we're happy to pick this up in the Q&A. And finally, the university follows a weighted diversity systems for the admission process. Okay, so this is about the program structure. Before we come to the program structure, I actually but want to step back and actually speak about some of the ethos of teaching and learning at IIHS. And there are many, but let me highlight three things. One is interdisciplinarity, which you've already heard many times, and you will hear many more times by the end of this webinar. Second is the link between practice and theory. And I don't only mean that we teach from practice, but actually make that connection between practice and theory that enables the learners to reflect on their own work, and we are able to bring two together. And the third cornerstone of our teaching actually is that we are rooted in the Indian context. So you will not be taught about how things are working somewhere in some other country, learning from there, absolutely, but what is the Indian context and how can we learn from that? So this is kind of the ethos that we follow. Coming to the program structure, basic 2-year full-time degree. We have one thing that we do a little differently from other places is we have 3 terms instead of two, 3 terms of 11 to 13 weeks. And you take some courses together and some courses which are specific to your degree. That's the overall structure. Now, if you look at the names here, I will be, Sudeshna and I will take you through each of these types of courses in the later slide, but I just want to introduce you to these different type of courses, okay? So just to say, you will see things here which go beyond classroom teaching. So let me take you through them one by one. So one is foundation courses, which is looking at humanistic, comes from the principle of humanistic education and is looking at the integral personal development of learners. Then you have core courses, which is a set of theory classroom-based courses you take, which sets the interdisciplinary foundation for the rest of the degree. Again, this is a set of courses which you take with all the other master's programs. So we have 4 master's program, and you will be taking them together. Then starting from 3rd term and the whole of 2nd year, you will be taking a set of elective courses, a different kind of elective courses. The different types, we'll speak about it, but this is something specific to your master's. Then there are method courses, which are self-explanatory, and we'll speak about them, but this really prepares you for a diverse set of skills that you will require as you step out into the world. Now, an element, very creative element of our curriculum process is that what you have learned in your classrooms and what methods you picked up, you kind of bring it all together in the field, in the real life. We do a place-based practica where you apply all these learnings and bring it together and make the teaching your own. So this is the overall structure. And there's also an internship and dissertation, which we'll speak about. This is the overall structure, and then we'll go through this one by one. I'm wondering, Sudeshna, do you want to add something to this slide?
No, I'm actually thinking that we should probably pick up the pace a little bit, and because I do want to hear their questions as well. So let's go, let's give them all an overview quite quickly, I think, and then let's see, we can deep dive based on the questions. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. So the elements are hopefully clear to you from what Kavita has told. Now, how they will be organized through the years will be like this. So the first 2 terms, all the 4 master students will study together, because we think that there's a lot of value in having people from different disciplines sit together, work together, get the different kinds of perspectives in together. This is also the first 2 terms will give you like a fundamental vocabulary into urban and, the whole continuum of settlements that we're talking about. What is the basic kind of issues going on there? What are the debates? What is the vocabulary? So this you will take together, the first 2 terms. right? So there you will see the core theory. You see all the names. We're not going to go into all the details. This is also there in the prospectus. Similarly, methods is very, very critical. Again, interdisciplinarity plays a big role because in the methods, you will actually see different disciplinary informed methods are things that you will have to all take at least at a basic level and be familiar with. And then you will also do practica, which will help you sort of not just get lost in the concepts and theories, but constantly have this kind of attention with the real world, that if this is the theoretical, how do I see it? What does it feel like? What does it smell like? How do you see caste on a road? Like, it's great to talk about the theories of caste and all the kinds of issues and marginalizations that may be there at it, but it looks different. And so practica is the place where a lot of these things will become real, where you will be able to sort of translate this on the ground. So the practica will not happen in your first term. It will go and start from your second term onwards, and you will have both elements of observing what's happening on the ground and then going to analysis and propositions into the third term. Then we go into term 3 onwards. Now, term 3 is when you will separate into your 4 masters, and really the general electives are your core for your masters. Everybody who's enrolled in a particular masters has to take this. So as you can see over here in the UEID thing, you will take one course on urban and regional economic development, one course on infrastructure systems, and like we said, equity and sustainability are very key. So the third course is going to be on poverty and inequality in urban development, right? As you go into the terms 4 and 5, then you start to take electives which are resonate with your interest. What do you want to deep dive into? These electives are going to be called interdisciplinary electives, as well as a set of things called open electives. Again, all the details are in the prospectus, so we're not going to spend a lot of time going into the details of this. But one of the critical things over here is that you will get a second version of a practica here again, which is what you see over here, interdisciplinary electives at the bottom of this thing, Policy Studio 1 and Policy Studio 2. This is another way of engaging with the field. Here you will be engaging with a lot of the stakeholders as well. Again, one through land economy and finance, one through infrastructure finance, project structuring, risk management, okay? Very real life oriented, built on not some theoretical conceptualization or problematization, but actually the kind of issues that are and the forms that they take right now. A lot of emphasis on methods, interdisciplinary electives are going to be there, and then open electives where you'll be able to take classes across the whole university, even electives that are being offered by some of the other masters. There you have some flexibility. Kavita, any further additions on this basic flow?
No, we're good.
Okay, so let's go over here. So this is just kind of also then highlight that first element that Kavita told you about, which is that there's a foundation, a core. We take a humanistic overall personal development approach to the entire process as well. So you will also have something called a foundation basic, foundation advanced, which is really one of the most fun part of the whole program. You will work together, grow, cook, eat, build, play, yoga, perform, make, right? So these are all very hands-on kind of things as well, which will allow you to, sort of have many other extracurricular elements to your learning journey over the 2 years that you're here with us. We'll also have exposure visits, a small town, medium-sized towns, as well as metropolitan cities. You will have that over the course of 2 years. Professional research development, a lot of focus on that. This is the last term that we're talking about, but it will be extending across the terms 3 to 5, and then this final internship or dissertation that will happen over term 6. Right? So again, Kavita, any additions here across the...
No, I just wanted to add about the exposure visits that while the practica will be based in Bangalore, because we will be based in Bangalore, the idea of exposure visit is really to get to see that rural to urban continuum and also different kinds of systems. So you start from a really small town, go on to a bigger town, and then to a metro. And so that's another point which we have not highlighted enough, that what we teach here is not just meant for the big cities, it is really across the whole spectrum of urbanization.
Yeah. So the kinds of career trajectories that we imagine will come, this is at the core, this is at the crux of how India is transitioning right now, right? Like this whole economic transition, whole infrastructure development. So this program sits right at the crux of this huge change that the country is seeing. So what we actually see in terms of the career trajectories spans the spectrum from the private sector, development, infrastructure, finance, services sectors, professional service firms, many kinds of skills, like everything from sort of the big five to smaller consultancies, professional services, all of that spectrum of private sector. A lot of entrepreneurial, potential here as well. There's a lot of commercial entrepreneurship. There's a lot of small business, MSME. And like I said, that we are going to do just the whole spectrum of the economy. Even when we talk about the private sector, it's not like just the big firms. And so, sort of really understanding the spectrum of like entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurs, public entrepreneurs, that space. There are a lot of opportunities with government and public sector. It is one of the key actors within this particular space. So there are opportunities there. There are development sector opportunities, including UN, multilateral, bilateral, international organizations, think tanks, development consulting firms, not-for-profit organizations, CSOs, NGOs, etc. And then academia, of course, right? So there is a very wide spectrum of where you may be able to land after this course, right? And the critical thing is, this link over here, ihs.ac.in. It has the prospectus, it has the FAQs. So please take a look. Your application last date is 20th June. But with that, Kavita, any last words from you? Otherwise, let's just open it up to questions now.
Let's just open it up, I think.
Okay, folks. So start putting your questions down in the chat or unmute yourself, which you can. This is the format that allows you to do that, and just ask us the question. No question is too small. No question is too obvious. So please, anything on your mind. Okay, I see one question over here. Are these programs going to be covered under the reservation policy? Again, take a look at our prospectus. There is a very clear set of instructions about how our admission process will work. And in that, you will see one stage about the diversity points. And it has a very clear this thing about what kind of, social and economic diversity, along with sort of the merit considerations we are going to include as a part of our admissions process. There is, again, all the details of what documents you have to submit to be considered as a part of that. So please take a look at that. It's not the typical reservation policy. So please do look at the details in the prospectus for this. There's another question. Can a background in machine learning be useful to the program? What career paths can I imagine afterwards? So let me see. Vijay, very good question. And also the answer is absolutely yes. So just to give you a quick example, we're doing some work with the government right now on sort of the economic lens that they need to take to make the new master plan for the next 20 years for a city. And in that, a very critical part, for example, of what we have done in terms of, going beyond traditional ways of thinking how cities grow is through a machine learning future scenario model. So there are lots of applications of this kind of an entry point as well. So absolutely, that kind of a background has, has value, has relevance for the program that we're talking about. And again, like I said, that you can land from the public to the government sector, like that spectrum is open because these are not siloed as to, consulting firms are in the space, entrepreneurial kind of spaces are there, government spaces are open. So, there are many kinds of career paths that open up over here. Um, Kavita, do you want to take the next couple of them?
Yeah, so I will just continue and the other question and the other vein about being an architect and designer. So I think we find the broader answers, we find each and every discipline that you come from useful in the course. And what typically happens, this plays out in a couple of ways. There are some things that because you take a set of interdisciplinary course in the beginning, there's some courses which will come more naturally and easy to you, and the others you'll have to put in more effort because the language and the vocabulary is different. So your backgrounds help you in those specific courses, but the real power of interdisciplinary learning is peer learning. So from my experience, you will learn a lot and you will give a lot. So in concrete example, for being an architect, in practical cases, we have found that people who have architecture and designer backgrounds are able to help others, with the representation side of thing, or spatial analysis. And of course, you learn with other methods you may not be familiar with. So absolutely, it's a critical thing, and we've got lots of architects and designers coming our way. There was also a question about financial requirements. Again, please refer to our prospectus. But yes, we do have scholarship and financial aid. The process is very clearly written up in the prospectus. Please refer to it. And we do strongly encourage you to apply because there is aid. So please do apply, and the details are there in the prospectus.
Yeah, I want to seriously this thing. We take diversity very, very seriously here at IIHS. We are going to make scholarships, financial aid is something. Loans are all things that we are considering. They are there in the prospectus. Please do not let that be a barrier. Please do apply. Okay, there are a set of questions here. Kavita, do you want to take a few or should I?
Start and I'll add to it.
Okay. So, first question about the placements. So, Nanda, yes, placements is a very critical part of how we will do this. We will do this in two steps. One is in your final term, one of the opportunities that you have, one of the trajectories that you can take is to go the internship route. For those who are looking for a job, that might be a very good kind of a process. We fully provide all support for internship support. In fact, even when we were doing our 1 year urban fellows program kind of a thing, we for every person there were 2 or 3 offers that we were getting from organizations into internship placement. So we have full support over there. It's a stepping stone into the kind of job that you want, right? We take placements very seriously. We're not going to guarantee placements as a part of the master's program, but we absolutely will provide support. There will be lots of resources as well as facilitatory kind of steps that we will take to help you connect, write your CV, know how to learn how to do interviews, like lots of support like that in terms of placements, because you want to see full placements coming out of this process. Will the completion of this course make me eligible to apply for UGC NET examinations? Does this program meet the qualification requirements of NET? This is a fully UGC approved program. So all of the things that apply to UGC programs will apply to this program as well, right? So please take a look at the prospectus for more details on this. But this is in a master's UGC, it is equivalent to all master's UGC otherwise. Regarding the final semester dissertation mentioned in the prospectus, could you explain what type of dissertation this will be? Will it follow the traditional academic dissertation format used by other universities? Does IIHS have a different approach? Would I say this web purely written research project, if only grade, or if there are other components involved? So right now the dissertation or the thesis that you will do is only one of the kinds of things that you can do in term 6, right? As you might have seen there are 2 or 3 different kinds of approaches. The thesis particularly refers to a research thesis, in the way that you recognize it otherwise. But there are other options, not just the thesis option that's there in the term 6. I hope that answers your question.
Can I just, sorry, add to that? But the
Yeah.
last semester is either a dissertation or an internship. So there is also an option of doing an internship. And also speaking to the previous question of preparation for placements and internship, if you notice in one of the slides, the last semester was internship / dissertation, but we had professional / research development starting from term 3. So that is actually a place where we can prepare you for the dissertation and provide you with additional research methods, or we can prepare you for the introduce you to different practice opportunities that are there. So this process will start from the beginning of second year itself.
Yeah. Courses are absolutely suitable for girls looking for better employment opportunities. We have always had gender balanced classes, in fact, with women being just slightly more in number than the men in classes. We don't know how it will play out next year. Every year to year is different, but absolutely, we have many, many women enrolling in these courses and going into, absolutely equivalent, that everything we're saying about employment and making sure that people have good placement opportunities, etc., applies to across genders. About the publication of the thesis, I think that's a little bit further down the line. It is very much a case-to-case basis. It's an individual kind of a thing. Faculty here are very happy to help you with a lot of this kind of stuff. It has always been our culture to help and mentor people through these stages. So I don't think that's going to change. That's absolutely on the anvil in terms of like the publication of the work that you produce.
And so, Sudeshna, just to add to that, one
Yeah.
is everybody goes through writing skills methods course,
Yes.
but you also have a set of advanced courses, including advanced writing, which will very much cover academic writing and getting a publication ready for something ready for publication. So that kind of structured support is definitely there. And then on case by cases, whether the papers can be individually further support is that's there with the faculty.
Okay.
Mm.
Many more questions here. So I'm going to come back to some of the other questions from Nanda, but I want to take some of the other students, prospective students' questions first. I will come back to these, because I just want to make sure that everybody has a chance to ask questions. The entrance and the interview process. Again, please look at the prospectus. There's a two-stage process. First is you have the registration link. You have to fill in the application form, which you don't have to do at one sitting. It allows you to come back and fill at this thing. But once you do fill it in, please press submit to make sure that it has gone. After that, there is a two-stage process. At the first stage, there's going to be an entrance examination, which will be online, which will be a date will be announced. You will all have to kind of be available on that date, take the sort of the timed entrance examination. And then at stage 2, so stage 1, we will do a short list based on the entrance examination and based on the diversity points. And then we will do a short list. And in the second short list, you will have an interview, which will also be online for master students. And there will be the essays that you would have written as a part of your application form. Those two will be taken into account, and that will be the stage 2. And after that, you get admission to your program. So that's the interview process will have, a couple of IHS faculty and, just to understand who you are, what your interests are, what's your fit with the program. That's the kind of thing that the interview process will be looking at. And what is the difference between this and the MA course? So here, this difference is, the Master of Science, the Master of Arts kind of a program. And the difference to some extent is to think about the MA program as being a little bit more liberal arts oriented. You will have more humanities subjects as a part of the MA course. You will have more economic development, infrastructure development courses as a part of this program, right? So, like I said, that the difference will start to happen from term 3, 4, 5, and 6. That's where the programs have the maximum amount of difference, because the first 2 terms are foundation courses. But as you start to see term 3, like in the prospectus also, pay attention to the differences in term 3, what courses, what subjects can you take, and term 4, term 5, term 6, right? Like that's where you will start to see, but definitely a lot more liberal arts and humanities in urban studies and practice. It's a general, it's a more sort of a general practitioner kind of an approach. versus the Master of Sciences in Economic and Infrastructure Development, which is a little bit more specialized into particular these sectors, right? So I hope that answers your question. Kavita, do you want to take some of these next ones?
Why don't you take the PhD one? Because
the PhD one is this one. Okay, thank you. Okay, I had a question. Given the interdisciplinary nature of this project, depending on specific courses we take and dissertation topic we pursue, could this taken as a process of getting into a competitive PhD program in the social sciences? Absolutely. So basically, see, the PhD program is something that you know that there are different kinds of PhDs out there. There are certain programs that by very nature are interdisciplinary PhDs, versus there will be some that will going to be very specifically a disciplinary oriented PhD. So very clearly, this is the kind of a master's track that will prepare you well for an interdisciplinary PhD, right? Like, do understand that there is that kind of a trajectory. It makes perfect sense to take that. So yes, so for example, development, absolutely. Planning, absolutely, right? But sociology, certain departments may be more disciplinarily focused versus others. Anthropology, they may be more disciplinarily focused versus others. So it'll depend which kind of trajectory you want to take forward. So development sociology, for example, is a much more sort of an open interdisciplinary kind of a PhD. I hope that answers the second part of your question. Even if one chooses not to pursue an urban-specific PhD, but rather focuses on broader social relations connected to urban issues, right? So development studies, development sociology, all of that. With that in mind, will the program offer strong support, particularly in the research and publication stride front during the dissertation in the final semester? Absolutely. I mean, this goes very fundamentally to our ethos that we are very much looking forward to our students, this is not just something that, you're going to consume a program. You're not just consumers of a program. The masters are like, these are the masters that we have designed, we have curated in a way that you also become knowledge producers, right? Not just consumers of knowledge, which basically means that if you're knowledge producers, then this is one of the trajectories: writing, putting it out there, but not necessarily just journal articles. It may mean blog pieces, it may mean editorials, and these things. There's a lot of gray literature, which is very, very academically oriented as well. So, and like Kavita said, that we take that very important, we consider that to be very important. There are writing workshops, there are writing labs that you will have access to as a part of the program. And so this is part of that trajectory as well. Can you tell us a bit more about independent projects? So that's the other option that you will have in term 6, right? You can do a thesis, which is much more research oriented. You can do an independent project, which may be, again, research oriented, some fieldwork oriented, where you will have a faculty mentor. Or it may even be something that is a little bit more like a case study, a little bit more like a report, a project report, a particular kind of a real life, what often gets called a client-oriented project report kind of a thing. Or you can have an internship kind of a thing as well. So independent projects is something that is a little bit more open in its scope. It depends on, of course, what the requirements are. I mean, as part of the degree program, there are certain requirements that will have to be fulfilled. But it also is a lot more open in terms of your conversation with your faculty mentor, in terms of how you will design that project. What are your outcomes? What will be the outputs? What will you be held responsible for producing at the end of that term period? That's the independent project. So we skipped a few questions in the beginning. So Kavita, do you want to take some of the ones that are, I think there were Nanda's question from question 5 onwards, I think.
yeah. So let's come to question 6.
Sure.
Again, I mean, for both these questions, please refer to the prospectus. But one thing is that where the classes will be held, most of the classes, majority of the classes will be held in the Sadashiv Nagar area. But some of the classes, especially the foundation ones and a few others, will be held in the Kengeri campus. Transportation will be provided at fixed timing from your hostel facilities to and fro the campus, whether it's the Kangeri campus or whether it's the Sadashiv Nagar building.
Yeah. And a lot of the core,
Activity.
the cook, grow, make, perform, a lot of that is going to be also in our Kangeri campus. A lot of some of the like environmental lab stuff is going to be in the Kangeri campus. So it's actually between all, it's all an integrated kind of a thing. Transport is going to be provided between all of the different campus facilities. You don't have to worry about that. That's our headache, how you get from point A to point B. But yes, it's a mix of both the locations where you will be, where you will have your classes. And in terms of food as well, I mean, where we are going to get you your accommodation, etc. There are options there. Again, like please refer to the prospectus. A lot of this kind of details is much better seen as a part of the prospectus itself.
I also anticipate, sorry, Sudeshna, if Subhay and others are there, if they want to add to any
Yes.
of our responses to any of the questions we've given, please add, because all of you have also been part of this process.
Yeah. And the faculty list, I think, is going to be online soon. Just watch the space, please. You will the directory will be put up soon.
But if you are wanting to look, you can look at the IIHS website on the team, and those are pretty much the kind of, to get an idea of profile, those are the kind of people who will be teaching you. Sorry, Subhay, please.
Yeah, just to add up to answer Nandana's question about worrying about logistics, I don't think Nandana needs to worry about that because it's a residential program, which means the stay and the transportation between the accommodation to your classes will be taken care of IHS. And if there are any other queries, you can always write to us and we will get back to you.
Yeah. And given the time, this thing that we have, maybe what I could request is, maybe just Subhay, if you can send that initial message that you had, which had all the links, as well as the phone numbers, as well as all the emails, so that people have something to, thanks so much. Yes. So I would request everyone to please not think that the end of this webinar is the end of your questions. Please feel free to continue to ask these questions. You have email IDs. We will respond on that. There are also, many other webinars for all the other master's and PhD programs that are also scheduled. So please look at our website, look at the timings of that and join there. It'll give you another chance to ask other questions. Will the program allow any flexibility to switch programs? So this is not going to be possible. So when you are putting in your application, you have to mention the maximum of 2 programs you can give your choice in, right? So, but your first priority is very critical. Please be very, very sure about what is your first priority, put that in, but you can also put a second priority in. We'll take that into consideration. Do remember, like I said, that there are parts of the program, especially in the first 2 terms, that you will take along with all masters. So we do think that across all of the masters, there is some common vocabulary that will, irrespective of the program that you're in, you will get that. But then, of course, we deep dive because the masters are distinct from each other. But the flexibility of shifting in the middle of the program, because it is such a tightly curated 2 years that we have, that's going to be really hard to accommodate, right? So as of right now, the answer is no.
And if you have any doubts, this is the time to ask us, or like we said, there are other forums. You can ask us about any doubts you may have regarding one program versus another.
Yeah.
This is the time for you to choose and get to know the programs better.
Yes, you got I cannot go into details of individual these things, but just officially and unofficially, I'm yes, Gautam is definitely part of the faculty here.
I would also just like to add in that folks have an option of up to applying up to two masters in their application. So you can really consider the two masters that you want to apply to, and as they move forward through the interview process, they can then make that choice.
Yes. Any other last questions? So there will be separate entrance and interviews. Yes, Piyush. There are two stages of the entrance. First, you have to fill in the application, which has certain essays, etc., which are there. You have to fill that in. First stage of the program, first stage of the admission process is the entrance examination. Then there's going to be a shortlisting. And in the second stage, there's interviews, and we will look at your essays that you have put in your application form. So there are definitely both stages that are going to be that will play out for each of the masters that will be in play. Are these disciplines accepted by traditional institutions across India for further studies and employment? So, I mean, let me answer the question in a slightly different way. We've been running a one-year version of this program for 10 years, okay? And we have 100% placement over the 10 years that we have been doing this. So I don't know what the answer to this question is. All I can say is that there are, employers that come back to us year on year wanting our graduates, particularly. Because one of the things that they say is that when they take freshers from many other programs, it takes them the first 4-5 years to just understand the difference that exists between what is taught on paper and how things are actually happening on ground, or how a lawyer will talk to an economist or an engineer will talk to a social scientist. These are not things that are usually taught as a part of a educational program, but it's very much a requirement when you go into employment. And so year after year, employers have come back to us, is that your programs short circuit those first 4 years of learning. We can take your students and get them to start to do what they would do from year 3, year 4 onwards. So I think that is pretty high praise, and it's a
You say that
indirect
this is
way.
now a UGC approved program. So I just again want to reiterate what Sudeshna said sometime. This is a UGC approved program. So all the regulations that would apply, eligibility of UGC would apply to these programs.
Okay, we have the last couple of minutes, so I think we can take, if there is one or two more questions, we can take it.
There's something coming up. Oh, this is
Yes, these are useful links that Subhaya has now shared with you, the sample question papers, the FAQ pages, our phone numbers, our email ID for further questions. Take a look at our website, Piyush. We don't want to become a engine for students leaving the country. It doesn't mean that students have not gone and done amazing things in PhDs in lots of universities around the world. But we don't want to become a place where it's a way to leave India. So, so I'm a little bit sort of on a fence in terms of answering this question. Opportunities exists, but yeah, there's a bigger picture to take into account. That said, I will close from my side. Kavita, maybe we're now at 7.
Yeah, I think good if there are no more questions. What other there's one more question, so let's answer. What other education institute or universities in India collaborating? Well, there is a long list of domestic collaborations that we have. And again, you can refer to our website because it is really a long list. But let me tell you, there are different kinds of collaborations. So we have academic collaboration where we have been co-teaching or going and teaching, or people students from there coming, so that's there's research collaboration, and there's a whole network of practice collaboration, and practice collaboration not with just other practice organizations, but also with universities, where we could either be doing a joint research thing to them with them, or the students could be coming to see our practice work, or some other kind of work. So there is a range of collaboration, absolutely. And across, I think, I don't know, I can confidently say all states in India, but I would definitely
Easily,
say most easily, yeah,
pretty
okay.
much. Yeah,
Most states have this, all states in India. So yeah.
yeah. But our main website will have the details of a full, not only domestic, but international as well. We have collaborations across geographies. Will there be projects involving? This is going into a lot of detail. We constantly work on a lot of this stuff, but it is hard to predict what is going to be the live projects when you join us. But
I
again,
mean, let's put it this way. I mean, there will be definitely something involving SDG, definitely something involving climate change, and definitely something involving Bangalore city administration. I don't just know, like Sudeshna said, whether those three specific things will come together, but definitely that flavor will be there of all those three things.
yeah, yeah. So with that, at least from my side, it was very lovely chatting with all of you. Thank you for your very, very insightful questions. I hope that we were able to answer, most of it. There are many channels for you to keep asking these questions. Would strongly recommend look through our FAQs, look through our prospectus for a lot more detail, right? Like, because a lot of this thing is covered. But thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
And I hope, sorry, Subha, I'll hand over to you, but I just wanted to say thank you. And I hope we'll see some of you at least in the classroom in this program in a few months' time. Thanks, all of you. And I'll hand over to Subha to close the program.
Yes, thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. Our next webinar is on 3rd of June, Tuesday, on climate change, science, and practice. So please do join in to ask your questions that are more particular with climate change initiatives that you've had. So thank you, Sudeshna and Kavita, for taking the time to talk to our prospective people. And with this, we conclude the webinar.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.